Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto was sent back in time as a half-demon king, Harem, Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Damn demon trash, it isn't fair. You have had everything just handed to you, all that power, it should be mine. Only I, an elite Uchiha, deserve such power. I must find a way to kill the demon and claim its power as my own, then nothing will stop me. Itachi will fall at my feet and I will rule over this pathetic village of weaklings. Sasuke schemed as a evil-looking sneer twisted his face and killing intent rolled off of him. Sakura noticed this and cringed at the look on her so-called crush's face. The gleam in his black eyes was filled with rage, hate, envy and evil intent. She suddenly shivered in fear as she backed away from him. Once a safe distance from Sasuke she began to watch Naruto again, it somehow calmed her. He looks so handsome now. I mean he was always kinda cute in his own way but he always used to act so annoying. But now that he dropped the mask of the fool, he has become mysterious, alluring and outright hot. I wish Sasuke would come around. Ever since we discovered Naruto-kun's secret he has been so hateful. That's because he is jealous of Naruto-kun's power. His ego can't stand the fact that there is someone out there his age that is better than him. Inner Sakura added her 2 cents. That's no excuse for wanting to kill him though. So what if Naruto-kun is a Hanyu? He's still human in a sense and he's still very kind. You forgot to mention hot as hell, just looks as those muscles, and that nice firm ass. Sakura got several sudden mental images, flushed a deep shade of pink and felt a trickle of blood leave her nose. She couldn't deny the fact that Naruto had become very handsome. Unlike Sasuke who had the classic pretty boy, emo brooder look, Naruto had a mix of rugged feral with strong features that went very well together. It gave him a dangerous air about him yet he gave off an aura of comfort and protection, unlike a certain Uchiha who radiated angst so much it was disgusting. Naruto had noticed his teammates first when Sakura had started to give off an odd mixed scent of vanilla and honey, which confused him since she usually smelled of strawberries and flowers. Then the Lord of Brood made his entrance and began radiating a pathetic amount of killing intent that Naruto almost laughed at. However, it was time to wrap things up. He let a feral grin cross his features. Back-flipping to avoid a strike from the front, Naruto landed perfectly in a crouched position as he gave both his Bakken an expert twirl. He heard the sound of metal cutting through air to his left and twisted around and used his Bakken to knock several shuriken out of the air. The clone smirked and dashed at Naruto as it performed on of his signature moves, demonic spin out, which when armed with blades essentially turns the user into a living buzzsaw. The wooden blades crashed against a blue panel of chakra that appeared in front of Naruto, the chakra shield. The attack was halted and the clone broke off its attack. Naruto smirked, as his Bakken began to glow blue with chakra and the shield dispelled. Crosscutter. Naruto snapped and slashed his Bakken down after crossing them to make an X-shaped blade of chakra that hit the defenseless clone, destroying it in a mild explosion. Naruto didn't see Sakura's jaw hit the ground or Sasuke fume in rage as he turned to his remaining clone. Said clone launched a barrage of kunai at Naruto who leapt back and landed against the side of a tree and stuck there for a moment before leaping off it and go into a twisting rotation. Piercing cannon drill. Naruto barked as he thrust his Bakken forward as his body corkscrewed towards the clone. The clone crossed his Bakken to defend himself but with the speed and rotation that Naruto was going the Bakken were turned to splinters before Naruto literally drilled through his clone destroying it. Stopping his spinning in mid-air he forced himself to flip over and land on the ground skidding a few feet before coming to a stop. The bakken in his hands cracked and then shattered into bits of wood seconds later from the force of the move. His chakra had been the only thing holding the wooden blades together. Holy shit! Sakura muttered in awe. It was the only thing she could think of saying at the moment. Naruto wiped some sweat from his brow. Given his near-infinite stamina, he wasn't even winded. He smiled at Sakura, who once again blushed. "Good morning, Sakura-chan," he said kindly. "Good morning, Naruto-kun." She greeted back shyly. "Those were some really incredible moves you used. Where did you learn them?" "Honestly, I created them by watching other people's kenjutsu and taijutsu styles," Naruto said, scratching the back of his neck in modesty. "They were a bit hard to perfect, but once I got the mechanics down right, the rest flowed together." Sakura blinked in awe. "You created your own kenjutsu style?" she asked in shock. Naruto nodded. "No one would teach me, so I had to learn things by myself. I also made my own style of taijutsu called Oni Ryu Ken, or Demon Dragon Fist. I haven't made a name for my kenjutsu style yet though, but I'm leaning towards Mystic Dragon style for the name. My only other specialties are ninjutsu and fuinjutsu, and you know I'm pretty sucky with genjutsu," Naruto stated. Sakura frowned. "But from what I've seen, you've got really good chakra control, so why don't you do well with genjutsu?" Sasuke was pissed off at being ignored all of a sudden, but interested enough in what the demon had to say to keep his trap shut. "I can detect and dispel them easily enough, but I never took the time to learn any genjutsu, especially since I can't do lower level ones due to my chakra being too powerful. It overloads them, like the clone jutsu. Besides, genjutsu is better suited for support fighters like med nins or specialists. I'm more of a front-line fighter myself. So is the emo tem over there. You on the other hand are perfect as a support fighter. Once you gain enough chakra, stamina, speed and strength, you will be as much a threat with med jutsu, taijutsu and genjutsu as I am with my specialties," Naruto said with a smile. Sakura smiled shyly. Naruto may not realize it, but he was very flattering, something she got little of and enjoyed immensely. "Who do you think can help teach me genjutsu though?" she asked curiously. "Well, I'm pretty sure Kakashi-sensei has some he can teach you, and we could always ask Kurenai-san too since she is a genjutsu mistress. I can help you on all the basics of med jutsu and some advanced forms as well, and I will teach you a branch of my style of taijutsu since it uses med jutsu and anatomy mixed in with a combination of Jiyuken and Guken styles," Naruto answered. Sasuke sneered. "Where the hell did you learn Jiyuken Dobi? That is a Hyuga-only style." Naruto smirked. "I've watched Hyugas train a lot and learned to mimic their style, but since I cannot see tenketsu points like they do, I learned human anatomy and adjusted the style to hit pressure points and nerve clusters while using a mixture of gentle swift strikes and hard hits. You can learn any taijutsu style by watching if you're observant enough and don't cheat by using a certain dujutsu." Naruto nearly spat the last part. While Sakura was once again highly impressed and thinking that Naruto was some kind of hidden prodigy, which truth be told he had been in the other timeline. Sasuke was seething with rage. Somehow the demon had figured out how to copy techniques without the use of a dujutsu like the Sharingan. It was an insult to his clan and his power. What was worse, it seemed like he was going to train, actually offered, a worthless excuse for a kunoichi. If anything, the demon should be offering to train him. He was an elite, an Uchiha. Sasuke decided to try to use this to his advantage. Sadly, his social skills sucked. "Why do you bother training a weak girl like her when you could train me?" Sasuke asked angrily. Sakura's face fell at the jab at her abilities. It wasn't her fault that she wasn't from a shinobi clan. She did her best with what she had to work with, books and scrolls, which paled in comparison to hands-on training. It saddened her that she was thought so little of by the boy she had a crush on. Naruto bristled and shot a glare that could melt lead at the arrogant Uchiha, who actually had the smarts to get a bit scared. I offered to train her because she deserves it, her heart is in the right place and unlike us she comes from a civilian clan. Common sense dictates that gives her a harsh disadvantage due to the severe lack of hands-on training others from shinobi clans get as children. I'm a bit of an exception because the Hokage helped me a bit because of my condition and I was orphaned. So don't you dare look down your damn nose at her or I'll rip it off. Naruto snarled. It was right there at that distinct point in time that Sakura began to notice a change within herself and her mind. The past 2 days had taught her more than ever just what kind of person Sasuke Uchiha was, a stuck-up, arrogant prick with no care or feelings for anyone but himself. All the times she had tried to get him to open up to her, all the attempts at dating him, all the wasted devotion, it made her feel sick. It was clear now that no matter what she did he would never see her as anything more than a weak little fangirl, and the sad part was she nearly took that path. Unfortunately what little confidence she was building was about to be shattered along with her heart. TCH, like you have a right to talk to me like that demon freak. Sasuke snarled back. I am one of the elite in this village. She on the other hand comes from a clan of peasants, has hardly any chakra, dismal skills and a bit of book smarts. The only thing she is good for is reading books or acting as cannon fodder. Crunch, crack, thud. That had done it. Sasuke had pushed Naruto too far and Naruto put him down in 2 rather harsh hits. Once in the solar plexus and followed up by a jaw-shattering uppercut. The Uchiha had landed several feet away, sans several teeth, a swollen jaw and 3 cracked ribs. He had added a burst of chakra to his blows as well, a burst of green medical chakra mixed with a bit of his demonic red chakra. Now Sasuke was irreversibly sterile and the special chakra pockets behind his eyes reserved for the Sharingan were destroyed. The Dujutsu was now lost to the boy and would never activate. Nothing short of an eye transplant and demonic regeneration could even hope to come near to fixing what Naruto had just done. Naruto turned to see Sakura looking down and shivering as her tears dripped onto the bridge. His anger faded and the scowl on his face was replaced with a look of concern. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder and gave her a comforting squeeze. She looked up as her tear-filled emerald eyes met his piercing icy sapphire blue ones. Is that all? I'm worth, she sobbed. I've tried, so hard, to prove, that I'm not, worthless but no matter, what I do, or how hard I try, no one, likes me. You're wrong, Sakura-chan. Naruto said softly in a comforting tone. I happen to like you a lot. When I look at you I see a gentle and pretty girl working as hard as she can to blossom into a beautiful young woman and a talented kunoichi. Don't let that bastard destroy that because he is too blinded by his own hate and anger to see what is really in front of him. Sakura was rendered speechless as her tears continued to flow. Naruto, the same boy she used to tease and look down upon, the same boy she had slowly began to realize held more to him than met the eye, was now trying to comfort her. Part of her knew she didn't deserve this, not after how she had treated him in the past, but another part clung to his praise like a lifeline. Could he really see things in her that even she herself could not? Did he really think that she was pretty, beautiful even? Why? She asked in a whisper. Naruto sighed. Had this happened the first time he would have screwed things up horribly. It was times like this that he was glad he had the maturity he gained in his previous timeline. Because no one deserves to be treated like you were being treated. He answered. But I was so cruel to you. I used to hit you and. She began sobbing again. And your tears prove to me you are worthy of a second chance, that you feel shamed for your past behavior. That alone is good enough for me. All I ask is that you let go of the past, what's done is done, don't let it ruin your future. Naruto said, pulling her into a comforting hug. I'll protect you this time, and I will help you grow strong. I never thought you hated me, your actions said one thing, your eyes always said another. Your eyes always held shame and self-hate for treating another person the same way you used to be treated, and you hated what you became when you were like that, but you feared rejection by others and the rumors that were always spread about me. Naruto said as his instincts took over and he gently ran his hand through her hair in a comforting manner. Just remember that no matter what, I will always be your friend and I will help you achieve your dreams. He added. A warm feeling flowed through Sakura as her tears slowly came to a halt. This feeling she had was unlike anything she had experienced before. She felt safe, wanted and happy. Was this feeling the one she had been searching for with Sasuke? Was she falling in love with Naruto? She wasn't sure. She knew she was attracted to him, but these new feelings confused her a bit. Perhaps if she just. Sakura looked up as his face started inching towards Naruto's. He looked a bit surprised but didn't back off or reject her. Yo! Kakashi greeted and stopped in his tracks. Well, this is awkward. He muttered, noticing that Sakura was about to kiss Naruto. Naruto was holding said girl in his arms, both now betrayed in embarrassment, and Sasuke was out cold several feet away. Naruto and Sakura reluctantly sprang apart, both silently cursing the bad timing of their sensei while fighting off their blushes. Naruto was able to regain his composure quickly. Sakura wanted to crawl under a rock. After she castrated Kakashi for his crappy timing, she was so close, her inner self was screaming in frustration. Naruto cleared his throat. You're late, sensei, he said in monotone. Yeah, about that. I crossed a black cat and had to find another path here and all. Kakashi chuckled nervously when he saw Sakura shoot him a glare from behind Naruto that clearly showed her displeasure. So, what happened, duck ass? Kakashi asked using his new nickname. Naruto chuckled a bit at the name. Long story short, he insulted and was unnecessarily cruel towards Sakura-chan. He pissed me off and I shut him up. Kakashi sighed. Well, so much for the bell test, not that it really matters at this point. He muttered. Okay. So here's the deal, you two. I will act as sensei for all three of you, but since the council agreed that I should be Sasuke's mentor, I will pull him off to another training area for the other half of our training time, since he is my apprentice. During that time, Sakura, your sensei will be Naruto. He has offered to take care of your training in my place. Don't let his age fool you, he is just as able, if not more so, than myself. All irritation left Sakura at that moment. Part of her was excited that Naruto would actually be acting as her part-time sensei, but she was confused too. Why is Naruto-kun a genin if his levels are high? Actually, what rank are you really? She asked. Kakashi decided to answer for him. Naruto is a genin because he doesn't want special treatment and he wants to climb the ranks like the rest of us are. He is technically ranked as an elite Junin. Sakura was floored. An elite Junin, she squeaked. Naruto chuckled. Don't let the title fool you. I am powerful, but I am far from invincible and I am still learning things. No matter how powerful you are, there is always something out there stronger than you. The difference is your will to defeat such an opponent and the amount of experience you let yourself gain beforehand. Naruto said sagely as he recalled his fight with Hachibi no Orochi. Damn thing nearly killed him and he was ranked a nine-tailed demon lord, or as Golby had once called him, Neo Kyuubi. Naruto walked over and put his muscle shirt and trench coat back on before sticking Griever and Beowulf to his back with chakra. He arched an eyebrow when he saw a disappointed look cross Sakura's features and an amused gleam in the eye of their cycloptic sensei. Does Sakura-chan like me? I mean, sure, we almost kissed, but I thought that was an in-the-moment thing. Maybe. She does. I wouldn't mind, but she'll need to know the truth about how I have to rebuild my clan. At any rate, it can wait for a while. If she is still showing interest in a month or two, I'll explain things to her. Naruto mused to himself. In the spirit real, Kami sat next to a young blonde-haired man and an attractive redhead who were looking into a viewing pool at another blonde that looked like a carbon copy of the man next to the redhead. The blonde was a handsome man who wore a white trench coat with blue flames on it that matched his eyes. The kanji for 4 and fire shadow were stitched into the back of his coat above his clan symbol, a spiral. The redhead was very attractive and dressed in Anbu uniform with a fox mask on her shoulder. She had soft purple eyes with diamond-shaped pupils. Their names were Arashi Kazama aka Minato Namikaze and his wife Kushina Uzumaki. Shit, Minato-kun, our son is as friggin' dense as you used to be with me. Kushina said, rubbing her temples. Minato's eyebrow twitched. And he inherited your rather colorful vocabulary and temper. What was that, sweetie? She asked in a sweet tone of voice, a little too sweet. Minato gulped. Nothing, dear. He pouted. Kushina patted his head like a well-trained dog. I thought so. Minato's sweat dropped. Shinigami hovered up behind the group and snickered. Minato was so whipped. As if sensing his thoughts, Kami leveled a glare at him, causing him to cringe and break out in a sweat. Date the goddess of life, they said. She would be a frisky one, they said. What a bunch of. Shinigami grumbled in his mind. In reality, he was like any other male, whipped by an attractive woman that used her looks and certain other things as a weapon. Hopefully his avatar could help end that cycle. Then he remembered the fact the boy would be taking multiple wives, so much for that idea, but he could hope, right? Well, things should be getting interesting in the coming months. Kami stated with a smirk as they watched Naruto start teaching Sakura the tree climbing exercise. Especially when Kyuubi gets back, knowing her she'll jump him the first chance she gets. Minato snickered. Indeed, her memories have all returned and now it is a matter of time before her powers solidify enough for a proper rebirth. I must say though, she is getting quite impatient. Shinigami stated. Her soul sphere was hovering about back at his personal realm while complaining about how long things were taking. Gotta give it to my son though. He's gotta have one huge set of balls to get the Queen of Demons to fall for him hard enough to fight Oblivion for the chance to be with him again. Minato said with a chuckle. I think it's sweet. Kushina said with a smile. Wait until she gets her first kiss from him. He made my toes curl when I kissed him earlier. It's going to blow Kyuubi-chan's mind. Hell, I'm a goddess and it nearly blew mine. Kami exclaimed with a giggle. Minato and Shinigami leered at Kami and let out perverted giggles only to get soundly brain-dusted by their significant others as they both screamed, pervert, at them. Ero-sensei is going to have a field day when he meets back up with Naruto. It's going to be fun to watch. Minato though and stifled another perverted giggle. Kami and Shinigami suddenly frowned as they gazed into the viewing pool. It has begun, they said in unison. Since Sasuke was out cold from Naruto's attack and wouldn't wake up for a few hours, Kakashi had an Anbu take the Uchiha to the hospital just to make sure he wasn't going to croak on them. Kakashi then did an estimate of Naruto's skill levels, and got his ass handed to him within 10 minutes. Sakura on the other hand needed a large amount of training, and after getting his butt kicked by a 13-year-old, Kakashi felt he should train as well. Naruto agreed and started Sakura off by giving her the supplies he got for her as well as a pair of chakra weights set at 15 pounds apiece. Sakura practically gushed over the fighter's gloves he had gotten for her and thanked him profusely. Naruto just waved it off and started her with the tree climbing exercise while wearing her weights to maximize the effect. She was a little slow at first, but she was getting the hang of things quite quickly. In turn, Naruto was also helping Kakashi better understand the use of chakra shield and chakra barrier. Later, the Junin wanted to work on Hiraishin. Something was bothering Naruto though. His senses were edgy and had started acting erratically. What's wrong, Naruto? Kakashi asked after dispelling a near-perfect chakra shield. Something feels off, he said as his eyes darted about, his ears twitched and he sniffed the air. That was when he caught the distinct stench of arachnid, or to be more specific, the smell of one of the various tailed demons out there that wished to gain power and rank by killing him. He didn't know this one's name, but it was a five-tailed scorpion. Naruto went stiff. It was close, inside Konoha and lurking somewhere in the woods, waiting for him. Damn it. It's too soon for this. Naruto muttered. What's going on? Kakashi asked as a sudden feeling of dread washed over him. In the future, when I finished absorbing Kyuubi's power, other demons ranging from tailed beasts to archdemons began hunting me down and challenging me in hopes of gaining my power and improving their rank. The damn things are sensing me now that I am here in the past, and instead of them showing up after I've been exiled, they are showing up now. Thankfully, not many of them are stupid enough to attack while I'm in a village. This one though. Naruto gritted his teeth. Kakashi searched and, like Naruto, found a high level of demonic chakra in the woods, but now it was moving towards them. Shit. This is going to be trouble. Way to state the obvious. Naruto retorted dryly. It's a five-tailed scorpion, has no title yet, and once I'm finished with it, it never will. You're going to try and fight it alone, aren't you? Kakashi asked. Damn right I am. I did it once before. I'll do it again. Naruto paused for a moment. It was getting closer. Sensei, get Sakura-chan out of here, now. I can't let her see my true form yet. Shit, too late. A familiar voice let out a terrified scream as a massive black scorpion with 5 stinging tails scuttled out of the forest. It snarled at the human as acidic slaver fell from its fanged maw, its massive pincers snapping and twitching as if ready to strike. Sakura was pinned against the tree she had been training on. She had gone deathly pale and was terrified as 8 beady eyes looked at her like she was the next Blue Plate special. Kakashi and Naruto appeared a short distance away from her as Naruto released the suppression on his powers. Kakashi-sensei, get Sakura-chan away from here, I've a demon to kill. Naruto said and began going through a few hand seals. Demon Arts, Level 1 Hanyu release. Naruto growled. Kakashi did as told, but neither made it very far as they stopped in awe as Naruto's chakra levels became unmeasurable and his features became more feral. To their surprise, Naruto took off his trench coat and swords and tossed them towards them. 9 golden furred fox tails with crimson tips flailing behind him as he prepared himself. Naruto's claws had jutted out his fingers, his whisker marks widening and darkening as his fangs grew longer, his eyes now more vulpine in their looks. I am sorry you have to see this now. Sakura-chan. Naruto's demonic voice rang out. Demon release. Final form. 9 tails unleash. The ground beneath Naruto cratered beneath his feet as chunks of earth were ripped up from the massive surge of power. Deep crimson chakra flowed over Naruto's body like flames. The skies above turned gray as lightning flashed and thunder cracked. As Naruto reached his full power, his body began to shift once again. The sounds of bones breaking and fixing themselves was audible as his height shot up to nearly 8 foot tall and his muscle mass grew to match it. Golden blonde fur then began to cover his body with streaks of crimson added into it. Naruto's face elongated into that of a mixture of human with a fox-like muzzle, a set of saber-like fangs and razor-sharp teeth lining his maw. His ears grew in length and had crimson tips, long and fox-like. His boots burned off of him as his feet were replaced by large pod claw-like feet, and his shirt finally shredded itself from the strain of his new form. His 9 tails seemed to grow longer and sleeker as they flailed behind him. Naruto hunched over and slammed his large clawed hands into the ground, causing the earth to tremble slightly as he let out a massive inhuman roar. His glowing cobalt blue eyes narrowing in anger as he bared his teeth at the now slightly perturbed scorpion demon. This was his final and most powerful demon form, a hybrid of human and demon fox, a nine-tailed werfox, the Neo-Kyuubi. Beast Naruto turned his head slightly to see Sakura and Kakashi gawking at him. He was surprised to see they held no fear in their gaze, just utter awe. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura-chan. Run. Get. Safe. Naruto growled out. It was difficult to talk in this form. His distraction would cost him. The middle tail on the scorpion lashed out and impaled itself in his shoulder, causing Naruto to roar in pain and Sakura to scream in terror as vile green venom dripped from the stinger poking out the back of his shoulder. The werfox let out another roar and ripped the tail in two and then tore out the offending piece of the appendage in his shoulder. A searing burning sensation shot through his body as the venom went through his bloodstream. He was immune to all types of venom and poison, but this particular one had a slightly acidic nature to it, so while he could fight off the poisoning effects easily, the acid would still cause some nasty damage before being flushed from him. It didn't help that this poison would screw with his chakra as well, making healing more difficult as well as control. The scorpion clicked angrily at the pathetic half-breed in front of it. Pain shot through it as its middle tail was rendered useless. Letting out an angry hiss, it began striking at the werfox with its other tails. Naruto dodged each strike or swatted the tail away, grunting in pain each time as the acid finished running its course and was purged from his system. Though the internal damage was pretty bad, even with his accelerated healing it would take a few hours to heal this damage. Cursed demonic venoms, it was draining his chakra to heal so much. Naruto was angry with himself for letting himself get distracted. Kakashi, desperate to help, began going through hand seals. Arachnids hated fire. Fire release. Fire dragon missile jutsu. He called out as he blew out a massive dragon made of red-hot fire that slammed into the side of the scorpion demon. The giant arachnid let out a screech of pain and anger before turning about and rearing back one of its massive pincers to crush the puny mortals. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura-chan. No. Beast Naruto roared in fright before using a large portion of his chakra to use a replacement jutsu to get them out of harm's way. The scorpion's hammer-like pincer claw was brought down with the force of a blockbuster bomb, driving Beast Naruto into the unforgiving earth like a nail through wood. The earth trembled from the force of the blow. The shockwave was felt for a 5-mile radius. The scorpion lifted up its claw as large streams of crimson blood ran off of it. The demon arachnid reared back and let out a chilling inhuman laugh that resembled a loud screeching noise. Kakashi stood there shaking, his visible eye wide in terror. Sakura choked as tears sprang from her eyes. "Nah, Naruto," she muttered, shaking her head. "No. Naruto. No," she screamed. His chakra, she couldn't feel it. Chapter 5. Demons, Tales and Plots. Dead silence reigned over the training ground save for the horrible clicking and screeching noise that the demon scorpion was making in victory. Kakashi could hardly believe what he had just seen. His eyes had seen it, but his mind didn't want to comprehend it. Sakura next to him had turned white as a sheet and then a bit green as tears streamed from her eyes. She continued to shake her head no in denial as her lips trembled and bile rose in her throat. "Always. Known in, all my time. A little left of center now. Reflect as I realize that all I need is to find the middle pillar. Path to sit like the sun by a star in the sky and just be sinners, casting stones at me. I stand, not crawling, not falling down. I bleed the demons that drag me down. I stand for nothing. Not crawling, the center. Not falling down, of calms within the I all bleed, for no one. The demons but myself. That pull me down, for me and no one else. Just as Sakura fell to her knees, several other groups arrived to see the horror. Sarutobi, Asuma, Guy and Kurenai had all arrived with their teams and stood stock still in shock at the sight of the massive five-tailed scorpion that was seemingly gloating to itself. Sarutobi saw the large spattering of blood on the beast's claw and blanched. Kakashi-san, whose blood? The Hokage asked. Ino, Tenten and Hinata were now trying to comfort a rather hysterical Sakura who kept crying out for Naruto. Kakashi began to tremble. It's Naruto's. He performed a substitution jutsu and took the blow for myself and Sakura. He choked out. Oh Kami. Sarutobi gulped. The three girls trying to help Sakura were now not doing much better than she was. Hinata had screamed and fainted, Ino looked ready to toss her breakfast, and Tenten was shivering in fear. The Junin were stiff and went ramrod straight when the massive arachnid turned its attention towards the group, happy to see it dinner had grown in size. We must stop that unyouthful monster, Guy-sensei. Rock Lee cried out. Guy gritted his teeth. I agree, but it will be most difficult, he said in his serious voice. The scorpion eyed the humans until its 8 beady eyes rested on 4 trembling young girls. It began to salivate. After all, human female virgins were a delicacy amongst the flesh-eating demons, and he had 4 just ripe for the picking. The beast opened its maw wide as 4 tentacle-like appendages shot out and wrapped around the 4 genin kunoichi, causing each of them to scream in terror and the other ninja to blanch. Goodbye, sunshine, I've put it out again, sad. I'm over. Personalities, conflicting. I don't need you, or anyone else, but me. I'll just be living my own life. I feel I'm glowing, center grow, infecting. I feel alive. Shovel dirt over lime, plant it in myself to sit like a seed under covers of earth and just be sinners, pointing fingers at me. I stand for nothing. Not crawling by myself. Not falling down. I bleed for no one. The demons but myself. That drag me down. I stand for nothing. Not crawling, the center. Not falling down, of calms within the eye. I'll bleed for no one. The demons but myself. That pull me down, for me and no one else. The Junin quickly began trying to free the 4 girls, Guy and Lee using every ounce of their strength to keep the monster from retracting its tongues. Asuma had his trench knives out along with Kakashi wielding 2 kunai trying to cut their students loose, to no avail. The flesh was as hard as steel. Kurenai bent 2 senbon and broke 1 kunai trying to stab the tongue holding Hinata. Sarutobi was beginning to panic. Without something to seal the demon into the 4th seal, jutsu was useless, not to mention as long as it had the girls he couldn't risk using it. Without Naruto, they literally had no options. Junin and cage level jutsu would just piss the creature off more than it was. Sakura, Ino, Hinata, who was forced awake, and Tenten suddenly all cried out for Naruto to help them. The fear in their voices was tearing at the other stunned genin, but they were too terrified to do anything. The killing intent coming off the demon scorpion had frozen them in place. There was a sudden trembling in the ground as the girls continued to scream and cry out for help. The trembling grew as a sudden massive surge of chakra erupted from below ground, followed by an enraged inhuman roar. The earth ripped apart as Naruto, still in war fox form, tore out of the ground, bloody, beaten but still ready to rip into the demon. Beast Naruto saw the situation the girls were in. Sakura, the only one realizing who he was, began to cry out happily at the sight of him. He jerked around snarling as his feral glowing blue eyes narrowed at the insect. It had gotten a lucky shot the first time, no more Mr. Nice Hanyu. At this point Naruto was nearly in berserker mode and relying on his primal instincts and fueled by the one thing that made him different than most, his alpha male nature. Come play kill. Refuse my body. Refuse my shadow. Stone cold will. Refuse to lead this. Refuse to follow. Bitter pills. Refuse to feed this. Refuse to swallow. I'm fueled godless. Come play. Come play. Kill. Just be. Just be. Just be. Just be. Just be. Just be. Release. Friends. Now. Naruto roared and slashed up with his blade-like claws. The four tongues stood no chance against the power of an enraged demon lord and were severed, sending out 4 gouts of rancid-looking purple slime-like blood. The scorpion let out a screeching howl of pain as it staggered back from the recoil of losing hold of its prey. The werfox took full advantage of this, and in less than a second he was on the giant arachnid, his arms around its left pincer appendage. With a savage tug and a loud cracking noise, said appendage was ripped off the demon's body before being used as a club to shatter the one on the right with another thunderous crack. Another tail lashed out at the werfox, its venomous stinger making to pierce the beast's heart. Beast Naruto caught the offending appendage in his massive clawed hand and clenched down. Another sickening crack sounded off as the stinger and exoskeleton of the tail shattered under the pressure of the werfox's grip. Beast Naruto hacked up a large amount of blood. The internal damage he suffered wasn't healing as fast due to his heavy use of chakra to heal and had only been worsened by the last blow he took. He needed to end this quickly, and he knew just the trick to do it. Leaping up into the air, all 9 tails spread out behind him and began spinning around in a spiraling manner. The werfox opened its maw as a large orb of swirling red and blue energy appeared in each clawed hand as another roar sounded off his intent for a killing strike. Twin demonic bullet Rasengan. Naruto roared and thrust his clawed hands forward, causing both Rasengan to shoot from his palms. I stand for nothing. Not crawling by myself. Not falling down. I bleed for no one. The demons but myself. That drag me down. I stand for nothing. Not crawling the center. Not falling down of calms within the I all bleed for no one. The demons but myself. That drag me down for me and no one else. Both drilling balls of energy spiraled towards the demon scorpion at the speed of a pistol shot, impacting into the demon's face and drilling their way through its exoskeleton. 2 seconds later, the 2 Rasengan blew up inside of the demon with enough force to incinerate it. Before the explosion could reach the other shinobi, Naruto appeared in front of them and summoned another massive surge of chakra and created a glowing red barrier around the group, letting the shockwave and explosion pass over them harmlessly. Naruto dropped the barrier and staggered slightly as he turned to look at those gathered. Friends, safe? No. Ow. The last part came out gurgled as blood poured from his mouth, his eyes rolled up and he passed out. His body returning to human form before he even hit the ground, steam pouring from his body as the damage he took from the fight became horribly apparent. The strange part was that his ears remained slightly pointed but otherwise human looking, and one of his tails remained out. Kakashi dropped down and began checking his vitals. Damn, he's really weak. Low pulse, chakra exhaustion and power burnout. If we don't get him help now he'll die. Kakashi, Kurenai and Sarutobi were the only ones there that knew any kind of medical jutsu, so they began working on him fervently. Sakura suddenly remembered the supplies Naruto had gotten her and gave Kakashi 2 blood, food and soldier pills. Hinata had some of her homemade healing cream with her and tearfully began putting it on some of his wounds. Tenten and Ino grabbed some extra bandages from their supply pouches and began wrapping the treated wounds. The male genin finally snapping to decided to help in any way they could. Neji walked over and activated his Byakugan and winced. Naruto-san seems to have taken a lot of damage from some kind of acid. He is healing but slowly. His chakra coils seem to have shattered but are also slowly repairing themselves. He said in his usual monotone. Once treatments had been done to the best of their abilities, Guy picked the now somewhat stabilized Naruto up. I will get him to the hospital as fast as I can, Hokage-sama. He said and took off so fast only a cloud of dust remained in his wake. 2 hours later, the entire Rookie 9 except Naruto and Sasuke, Team Guy, the Junin senseis and Sarutobi waited outside in the waiting area for any news on Naruto. Some rather startling news had been discovered about Sasuke when a complete physical and checkup was run on him. They discovered that he had somehow become sterile due to a mishaps with his chakra and it was irreversible. More so was that his Sharingan would remain dormant as his special chakra pockets for the Dujutsu had seemingly never developed. The others had been shocked, but there were a few there that thought it for the best: Sarutobi, Asuma, Kurenai, Guy and surprisingly Kakashi, who had come to believe the Uchiha clan was cursed. To the Junin's shock, none of the females seemed distressed about this. In fact, Sakura looked a little smug and so did Hinata. Tenten didn't know him and couldn't care less due to his rather harsh reputation in his treatment of other girls. Ino just looked indifferent. She had lost her interest in him yesterday when he acted like an ass to Naruto. Kiba had snickered along with Choji. Shikamaru just snoozed and Shino remained stoic as usual. Lee and Neji didn't know the Uchiha, so it didn't really matter to them. Sarutobi and Kakashi then did their best to explain a few things such as Naruto's nine-tailed form. It had taken them a little while to explain that as a Hanyu, Naruto has 2 levels of his power that he can unlock if needed in battle, and that even though he might look like a monster that he was still in complete control of the transformation. Sakura took it in stride, having been the first aside from Kakashi to witness the change and knew that he did it to protect them. Ino thought it was neat, like something she had seen in one of her favorite horror films. Tenten thought he was cute, which caused several of the males to face fault and sweat drop. Tenten always was one of the odd ones. Go figure, she would see the Neo Kyuubi as some sort of big puppy. Hinata didn't voice it, but she agreed with Tenten and thought that the form was cute, though she noted it would be cuter if he wasn't using it to tear apart a gigantic 5-tailed scorpion. The male genin didn't really have anything to comment on, considering Naruto's were fox form. It had freaked them out a bit at first, but his lack of aggression towards them killed any previous fear they might have had. Finally, a doctor came out by the name of Katsuki Yamada. Sarutobi got up from his seat. "How is he, Dr. Yamada?" The doctor chuckled. He was one of the few who had always treated Naruto in the past when he was brought in after mob attacks. "If there were more like that kid, I'd be out of a job." Once we got some extra chakra into his system, his levels began returning to normal at their usual inhuman pace. The damage done to his insides was extensive, but with a little help from us, his healing factor had made him good as new again. I'm telling you though, any normal human would have died from the amount of chakra he produced. It was so much that it caused his coils to break and reform into larger ones. Instead of being twice the size of human chakra coils, they are now 3 times the size and stronger than before. Katsuki reported. Any clue as to why he kept a tail and his ears pointed out when the rest of him returned to normal? Kakashi asked curiously. Actually yes. When his chakra coils reformed, they needed a balancer or limiter to keep his chakra flow going properly. To be honest, it appears as if that was the final step in his evolution as a Hanyu. According to his blood work, he is now literally a fox-human hybrid. Thankfully, his personality wasn't affected by this. His only comment was to chuckle and toss out a few curses at Kami and Shinigami for their bad sense of humor. Any other changes that take place will be of his own doing, so no need to worry about him sprouting more tails or fox ears unless he changes forms. All in all, he is just fine now, and his immunity to poisons and venoms has strengthened to the point he has also become immune to acid. His blood can actually turn acid into harmless substance now. He is still suffering from power burnout though, and was asleep when we moved him to his private room, but knowing his recovery rate, he should be fine in a day or so. Katsuki stated. What is P-power burnout? Hinata asked in her usual shy tones. It is the price the human part of a body pays for using extremely high levels of demonic chakra and powers for any period of time. The effect varies depending on the amount of power, chakra and/or damage taken during a fight. Truth be told, if Naruto were to ever sustain too much damage and expend too much chakra, it could kill him, but considering his regenerative abilities, that risk is quite low. For the most part, he would just need to rest a bit to regain his strength. Katsuki answered. May we see him? Sarutobi asked. The doctor smiled. Right this way, Hokage-sama. Are all of you his friends? He asked the others and they nodded. Then you may go too, just let him get some sleep for now, he will wake soon enough. He then led the group to a large private room where Naruto could be seen sleeping peacefully in the bed. The wounds he had sustained from the battle were now nothing more than scars on his body, some had even vanished altogether. His face was set in a peaceful if not innocent look, though his ears did twitch slightly with the sounds of their footfalls. They were still slightly pointed but no longer long and foxy. Tenten and the other females in the room giggled quietly as they saw his tail sway lazily over the side of his bed. That's one hell of a kid we got there, Pops. Asuma asked his father. Aye. He is one of a kind. Sarutobi nodded. Neji looked at Naruto and frowned. I can understand everything you've told us so far, Hokage-sama, but I do not understand why a five-tailed demon scorpion suddenly just showed up. It is because it sensed my power and wanted to claim my power or gain rank by killing me. Naruto said in a quiet voice. He sounded rather tired, so much so that he couldn't even open his eyes. Sakura-chan, Hinata-chan, Ino-chan and Tenten-chan, are they safe? Three of the girls blushed at having the suffix added to their names. Sakura was used to it, so she just smiled at his concern for their well-being. Yeah, we are, thanks to you, Whiskers. Ino said with a giggle. Naruto chuckled tiredly at the weird nickname. Good. I was afraid that thing might have hurt one of you. I'm sorry you had to see me change like that, now that I think on it. I probably should have just fought the bastard in my first level form, but I didn't want to risk it, so I powered up to my nine-tail form. It was a partial truth. Most of his skills were highly destructive and he didn't want people to see some of them just yet. Should we expect any more attacks like that one? Sarutobi asked. No, Ji-chan, that one was one of the less intelligent tailed demons. Most aren't stupid enough to attack me when I'm in a village because of the chance of other ninja and the fear of being sealed. Besides, most of the tailed demon lords act as guardians of their chosen elemental country and aren't really evil. It's the lesser tailed demons we have to be wary of, though I doubt after that any of them will be dumb enough to attack. Naruto stated with a yawn. Why's that? Kurenai asked curiously. Because technically and by demon law I am the new nine-tailed demon lord and acting guardian of Fire Country. By killing that five-tailed scorpion, the first activated that status by demon laws, even though I'm only a Hanyu. Some might still try, but it will be rare if they do. The title I carry and my power levels are more than enough to scare even some of the dumber ones off. Naruto answered. While Naruto was explaining things, Tenten had become quite enamored with his tail and took to playing with it. So by effect Naruto began to feel some rather odd and pleasant sensations. Despite his body feeling like someone dropped the Hokage tower on it every time she stroked the fur on his tail a certain way, it sent a shock of pleasure up his spine. Much to his silent horror, another piece of his anatomy was reacting as well. The adults noticed and began snickering to themselves while Tenten remained blissfully unaware of what she was doing to Naruto. Hinata, however, did notice and blushed brightly, which caught Ino and Sakura's attention. Ino got a nosebleed. Tenten. Naruto let out in a strained, squeaky voice. Can you stop playing with my tail? Ah, but it's so fun, it's all nice and Oh. She caught on and turned a nice shade of magenta. Kiba was rolling on the floor at this point. Things looking up, Naruto. He asked. If I could move right now, Fido, I'd be kicking your ass for that. Naruto grumbled. Why can't you move, and do you have any idea why you grew a tail? Kakashi asked, taking mercy on him, though he was laughing his ass off in his head. Naruto was thankful for the conversation change. I can't move a muscle, not even to open my eyes, because of the damage I took during my fight. It's a side effect of power burnout that basically has the body force rest. To be honest, it's taking a great deal of concentration just to move my jaw to talk. It should wear off after a good night's sleep and I'll be back to normal. This only happens after either long battles and or if I take a lot of physical damage. The tail. I was warned it could happen if I pushed my power levels too hard in my nine-tailed form. The result was breaking and reforming my chakra coils, but the doctor already explained that. The tail is also a symbol of my rank as a demon lord. All tailed demon lords have a tail when they take human form. Most of them just hide it under a simple genjutsu or a cloak. Naruto answered. Might have helped though if my body had been given enough time to properly adjust to my future self and power levels. Ah well, what can ya do? He added mentally. Sarutobi chuckled. It's just one thing after another with you, isn't it? You have no idea. Naruto replied dryly. Naruto woke the next morning feeling his power levels back to their optimum level. Shinigami had been correct when he said that it would take a few days for Naruto's body to properly adjust to his power. He shook his head. A lot had happened the past 2 days, more than he would have liked, but there was no going back now. At least he was in top form again. He frowned a bit as he looked at his new tail, the price of using his nine-tailed beast form without letting his body fully adjust to the new power levels that were put in it. Physical changes had been easy to adapt to, but when you force a human body from the past to merge with a Hanyu body from the future, it takes time for all that power to properly adapt into the system and stabilize. Thankfully, from the feel of it, he was now at his peak level and could now fully utilize all of his powers and abilities without problems. Naruto got out of the hospital bed and stretched his stiff muscles. He idly noticed he was clad in only a pair of boxers. On a table next to the bed lay his utility belts, shredded pants, trench coat, griever and Beowulf. He reached into his scroll pouch and pulled out his clothes storage scroll, and seconds later he had another pair of boots, a black tank top and a pair of black Anbu-style pants. Quickly donning the clothes, he stuck his swords to his back and then went over to the window, opened it and jumped out. Truth be told, he hated hospitals. This was better though. He could move freely again, so a leisurely run across Konoha's rooftops was just what he needed to refresh himself, along with a trip to the hot spring to take a good soak and wash up. Several miles from the fast-moving Naruto, Sakura, Ino, Tenten and Hinata along with Anko and Kurenai decided to also take a trip to the hot springs to relax a bit. The stress from the encounter with the demon scorpion was still running through the 4 girls and they wanted to soak the stress out. Kurenai tagged along because she had just finished training Hinata and Sakura in Genjutsu at Kakashi's request. Anko invited herself since she wanted to find out what had the 4 genin kunoichi so talkative about Naruto. Shortly after the group of kunoichi arrived, so did Naruto, who went to the men's side oblivious to what was going on the other side of the divider. So, Naruto really beat the crap out of Sasuke for being mean to you? Ino exclaimed in surprise and a little anger at the raven-haired brooder. Sakura nodded with a light blush. Naruto-kun took him down in 2 hits and then did his best to make me feel better. I almost kissed him. She giggled. Ino pouted. No fair. Give the rest of us a chance, forehead. It's not fair you got on the same team with the 2 hottest guys in our year. You can have Sasuke if you want him, The moment he said I was only useful for reading books and cannon fodder, I realized just who he really was. He's a prick. Sakura said, crossing her arms. Ino frowned. Yeah, he is. Never thought I'd say that. Tenten chuckled. The Uchiha sounds a lot like Neji. I tried to get him to date me for almost 2 years, but he has this damn obsession with fate, or in his words, we are not fated to be together. Hinata remained silent. She knew her cousin could be mean and hated the main house of her clan, but at the moment there was nothing she could do about it or him. She was also a little upset that Sakura and the 2 other girls were taking so much interest in her Naruto-kun. However, that might be moot considering what her father had informed her of last night. Ino noticed Hinata deep in thought and got curious. Hey, Hinata, what's on your mind? Hinata looked up and gave a small smile to the other girls. At least around them she didn't stutter all the time. I was just thinking about what father told me last night about Naruto-kun, she said. Tenten blinked curiously. What did he say? That Naruto-kun was the last of his clan and the holder of a new Kekkei Genkei, though we already knew that. What I found out last night, though, was that he is now under the Clan Restoration Act, she informed them. Sakura's eyes widened. I've heard about that law, she exclaimed. Sasuke was also stuck under it, not that he ever took interest. Anyway, that law forces the last living male heir of a clan who has a Kekkei Genkei to practice polygamy to restore the clan. This law goes one of 3 ways. The heir finds and chooses wives on his own, the heir gets forced into arranged marriages, or the worst one is that he is imprisoned for acting against the council and genetic samples are taken and given to willing donors. Hinata nodded. Yes, and according to father, Naruto-kun has until he is 16 to start gathering possible future wives, or the council will start forcing arranged marriages on him. A couple might be placed anyways due to his clan status. If he doesn't have any wives by the time he's 18, they will follow through with the third option, and I really doubt that the council can hold Naruto-kun prisoner for long. Ino cringed at the thought. No kidding. We'd have another Kyuubi attack, and this time it would be the council's fault. I wonder how many wives he has to have. What are the minimum and maximum numbers? She trailed off in thought. I remember learning a bit about this during my time at the academy. I believe the minimum number is 6, and as far as I know there is no maximum number. Tenten added and then grinned. Well, there's 4 of us. We get 2 more girls and that makes 6. But you don't even know him. Sakura nearly shouted. Not yet, but I plan on getting to know him better, and since I don't really have to worry about competition cause of the laws on him, I'm going for it. Tenten said cheekily. Sharing didn't sound too bad to her. So am I, Hinata said shyly. I almost screwed up with him once before because I misjudged him. I'm not letting this chance pass me up either. Sakura added. Ino let out a fake sigh. Well, I can't let forehead here drive him nuts, so I better join in too. Besides, I've heard about his insane stamina. Think of the fun. The 3 other girls blushed at the lewd implications. You are such a pervert, Ino pig. Sakura mumbled while fighting off a small nosebleed. Kurenai continued to watch the 4 genin kunoichi gossip, giggle and scheme about ways to get their Naruto-kun. The genjutsu mistress was mildly surprised at how quickly the young Hanyu had gotten the girl's attention, though she knew that Hinata had always been interested. She wasn't too surprised, thought, having talked to him a few times. He was a gentleman, kind and clearly chivalrous. He reminded Kurenai of a younger Asuma mixed with personality traits from the late Arashi Kazama. Bemused, she was about to ask her best friend what she thought, only to find the 20-year-old snake mistress no longer sitting next to her but peeking through a hole in the divider. Anko, what are you doing over there? Kurenai asked. She knew her friend was a pervert, but she thought that Anko might try to set an example for the genin. Anko turned with a shit-eating grin on her features. Oh, I was just checking out the scenery, and what wonderful scenery it is. Our little Foxy-kun decided to take a soak too. Cue the sound of music and a record coming to a rather abrupt screeching halt. 4 Genin Kunoichi stopped talking and silence reigned for all of 5 seconds before the girls looked at each other with a gleam in their eyes and nodded. Tenten produced 4 kunai, from somewhere, and handed the others one. 4 young females took off like a shot and landed next to an amused Anko who had gone back to peeking and poked holes of their own into the divider. Kurenai sweat dropped. So much for males being the more perverted side of the species. Naruto had been relaxing and enjoying the feeling of the hot water relaxing his muscles when he was forced into a sneezing fit for a few moments. A sudden shudder went down his spine and caused his tail to bush out. If I didn't know better. Naruto frowned. I'd say someone was planning things behind my back. Oh well, at least Ero Sennin isn't here. He let out a yawn and stretched himself. Standing up for a moment, he began stretching and flexing his muscles to ensure they were back in proper working order. He smiled when he noticed all previous pain and stiffness was gone. Having a tail now though made it impossible to use a towel to cover his modesty. Not that he had anything to be modest about, he was quite large for his age but not disturbingly so, so he kept a towel close by to hold up when he left the bath. It never crossed his mind that he could use his tail to cover himself. His sensitive hearing picked up some quiet muffled giggles, muffled girly perverted giggles. Naruto blinked twice and looked around. He didn't see Jiraiya or Kakashi around. In fact, he knew Jiraiya wasn't in the village at the moment. He started wading around in the pool of hot water in hopes of figuring out who was making the noise. If it was some pervert, he was going to pummel the man. What the hell is going on? He sniffed a couple of times, and the closer he got to the divider the stronger he could detect the mixed scent of vanilla and honey. Grr. If I find out whoever the pervert is around here, I'm going to brain him. Naruto said, stopping near the divider wall. A muffled gasp was heard as one of the girls, Ino, got an up-close eyeful and let out an involuntary chakra spike and promptly fell backwards with a massive nosebleed. Naruto heard several screams from the other side, followed by a few more chakra surges. Growing concerned, he dashed over to the locker, pulled out a pair of long short and some bandages, which he hastily wrapped around his eyes just in case. Using his enhanced senses, he hastily made his way over to the entrance of the female side of the hot springs, his blindfold securely in place. I heard screams. Is everyone alright over here? Naruto called out, his back turned despite the blindfold. It had only taken Ino a moment to recover, and she along with the other women started at the sound of Naruto's voice. They looked to the entrance to see Naruto standing there clad in nothing but a pair of shorts, his tail's tip flicking about, and with bandages wrapped around his head in a makeshift blindfold, his back to them. Now there was various ways they could react to this situation, but given the fact that Naruto had blindfolded himself and had his back turned with concern in his voice, the thoughts of screaming pervert and pummeling him flew out the window. But what to do? They didn't want to admit that they were the ones peeking. Kurenai flushed slightly and decided to make a discreet retreat through the second entrance after hastily gathering her clothes. The whole thing had grown a little too awkward for her to handle. Anko, however, got a deliciously devious idea and grinned evilly towards the unsuspecting blonde Hanyu. Naruto frowned in confusion at the sudden silence, his pointed elf-like ears twitching slightly to pick up sounds as his tail began swaying about as if searching the area around him. Ladies, is everything okay? Naruto asked again, a bit nervous this time because he didn't want to be labeled a pervert. Anko Flash stepped behind Naruto, grabbed his arm and tossed him into the center of the pool before shutting the door and locking it with a predatory grin. She quickly did the same with the other door. Now, it was time to have a little fun. Naruto spluttered a bit and managed to get his bearings as he dropped into a taijutsu stance thinking he was being attacked. Show yourself, you perverted bastard, if any of the ladies here have been harmed. I'll kill you, he snarled. This caught all of them, even Anko, by surprise. They didn't know that Naruto could sense their presences, but since he wasn't very familiar with Anko's signature and he could smell snake, he was instantly on guard. They also didn't know that he was good at blind fighting either. Thankfully, Sakura spoke up before Naruto could do something he would regret. Hinata had fainted again, her eyes swirling in comical spirals as steam poured from her ears and a trickle of blood from her nose. We're fine, Naruto-kun, Sakura said in a soothing tone as she placed a hand on his arm. There's no one here and we are just fine. But who threw me and why do I smell snake? Naruto asked, still on edge. Anko frowned a bit. That would be me, she said, losing a lot of her playfulness. Naruto's ear twitched in Anko's direction and he sniffed again and frowned. I apologize, Anko-san. I am not familiar with your chakra signature, and when I sensed your cursed seal I assumed the worst. I should have known better. I guess I'm just a bit jumpy. I'm sorry. He bowed in the direction he smelled her in and frowned. What the hell? Vanilla and honey again? Coming from 5 different sources. Anko smiled at the honest tones in his words. Besides, how could she stay angry at someone so cute? I'll let you off this time, Foxy-kun, but why did you blindfold yourself? She asked coyly. Beads of sweat formed on Naruto's brow and he swallowed hard. Well, I'm not a pervert. I didn't want to see anyone in here, he stated. Anko and Ino huffed, their cheeks puffing out slightly. And what's wrong with us that you wouldn't want to see? Both asked in unison. Naruto cringed. No, nothing. He let out an uncharacteristic squeak and then cleared his throat. It's just that. It's not polite and, I didn't want to make anyone mad. Shit. I'm gonna die. They're gonna castrate me and pummel me into the ground like Arrow Sennin. Crap. Naruto panicked. Tenten, on the other hand, was looking at Naruto's fidgeting tail much like a cat does a new toy. Sakura looked like she wanted to follow Hinata's example, but the perverted part of her mind, inner Sakura, refused to let her. Hinata was slowly coming to. She didn't realize the fastener on her towel had came loose from her frequent fainting spells. Anko did notice and let an evil grin cross her lips. Ino mimicked it, in one swift move by both. Anko jerked off the blindfold Naruto was wearing as Ino made sure Hinata's towel fell off. Naruto's eyes widened to impossible sizes since the first thing he saw was a very Hinata Hyuga. He stiffened, in more ways than one. Na Naruto-kun? Hinata asked in shock. She hadn't realized her towel had slipped off just yet and she unconsciously looked down to see a rather large tent in Naruto's shorts. Oh. She squeaked but managed to stay conscious. With every ounce of willpower Naruto possessed, he stemmed off a rather forceful nosebleed before it could start, screwed his eyes shut and dropped his hands to cover himself. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm not a pervert. Please don't hurt me, he said somewhat pathetically. Anko frowned. This wasn't the reaction she expected, and frankly, it ruined the mood and what fun it was supposed to bring. If she didn't know better, she'd almost swear he was scared. Naruto began to shiver and her frown deepened. What on earth could have caused this kind of reaction? She knew he wasn't gay. Then she remembered the memories he showed them 2 days ago in the Hokage's office and mentally kicked herself. Tenten, Ino and Sakura were very confused. They had just seen him tear apart a 5-tailed demon the other day and now he was acting terrified of them. Hinata stifled a gasp as she finally noticed her lack of towel and shot Ino a glare through a deep crimson blush. Ino gave the smaller girl a nervous grin and handed back the towel and Hinata covered herself quickly. Sakura touched his shoulder to ask if he was alright, and Naruto flinched away from her and gritted his teeth as if waiting for a blow to come. Anko sighed. Shit. I should have known better. Huh. Came four surprised voices. Naruto was still silent. Naruto, you can open your eyes. None of us are mad at you. We aren't going to hurt you, and Hinata-chan is covered again. Anko said in her not a crazy woman tone. But, Naruto started. No buts. Anko said firmly. You didn't dishonor any of us, and we don't think you're a pervert. If anything, it's my fault for forcing the situation. Realization dawned on the girls' faces. Naruto's deep-rooted sense of honor had him believe that he had dishonored them by seeing them. For all of Naruto's strengths, he still had major insecurities when it came to women. He had been afraid that they would hate him now. Hinata, not wanting to see her crush punishing himself for something that really wasn't his fault, screwed up her courage and used all of her will not to stutter. Naruto-kun, it was an accident. I'm not mad, she said, her tone still quiet and shy but with a hint of determination in it. Yeah, none of us are mad, and I want to say I'm sorry to you and Hinata. I was the one who made sure her towel fell off. Ino said. Naruto frowned in confusion. Wasn't this the part he got castrated and pummeled to death? Forcing his eyes to slowly open, he noticed Tenten, Hinata, Sakura and Ino standing closer to him, blushing but not angry. I don't understand, he said, confusion thick in his tones. Before any of them could speak, Naruto shook off his previous fear and discomfort but turned stoic as he ruthlessly squashed his emotions while berating himself silently. I am sorry, I had thought you were in trouble. I should have known better myself. Now if you ladies will excuse me, I have things to attend to. He lied, his voice in monotone, and in a swirl of water he vanished. Damn it. Anko cursed. What just happened? Sakura asked, a bit upset at how quickly Naruto could shut off his emotions. What I did when I pulled him in here was a mistake. It acted as a shock to his mind. I think he thinks we hate him or should hate him for what happened. Hinata looked sad. Is it because of his past? Anko winced. You could say that. There are things about Naruto that I cannot explain to you, for, in time he might tell you, but not until he feels the time is right. All I can say is that no matter how powerful someone is, they will still have a weakness. Some fear death, for example. Naruto, his fear is hurting and or losing those precious to him. It doesn't help that his deeper emotional range is very limited. He's afraid of love because anytime he has let himself feel it, it has been taken away from him. Anko said, now feeling bad for him. Ino looked at Anko for a moment, her eyes narrowing as she viewed the slightly older teen. You like him, don't you? She asked. Anko shrugged. What's not to like? He's handsome, considerate, and has a body to die for. I'm not in love with him like you girls are, though. I don't know him well enough yet. She chuckled as the four girls blushed deeply but was happy to see that none of them denied it. A word of advice for you girls: if you truly want a place in his heart, find what binds his heart and unlock it slowly. Don't make the same mistake I just did. Seduction tactics won't work on him until he has warmed up to you all a bit. With that said, Anko left the four genin kunoichi to think over what she just said. She herself wanted some time to think to herself about the blonde Hanyu. She usually wasn't so affected by a guy and wanted to figure out why when he was around she felt different. Perhaps it was because they were kindred spirits, both having had to suffer prejudices in their lives for things they had no control over. Several hours later, Naruto sat alone in one of the old abandoned training grounds. His previous frustration had been taken out on several boulders and old training logs, which were now reduced to rubble and sawdust. He was angry and disappointed in himself. Angry for letting old fears resurface and disappointed for acting on them instead of controlling his emotions like he always did. It was times like this that he missed Kyuubi's presence. she had always helped him remain calm in the past. The reactions the girls had confused him greatly, especially Hinata. He'd seen her for Cammy's sake and she didn't even scream. Part of him felt like a damn pedophile due to his mental age, but he had to remember that physically he was still only 13 and in the end, age didn't really matter to a Hanyu. But damn, how did a 13-year-old girl get the body of a 16-year-old swimsuit model? Pushing those thoughts aside, Naruto sighed. Sleep would not come easy tonight. Sighing, he stood up and released the seal holding his Zanbato Requiem so he could train a bit with the massive blade. In a puff of smoke and a flare of chakra, Requiem appeared, forming out of his seal tattoo. From handle to tip it was nearly 9 foot long. The blade was a rather wicked-looking piece of work. It was jet black and seemed to swallow all light that touched it, 8 inches thick and 2 feet wide. The blade was made so that it could cleave, slice, pierce and rip. Like most Zanbato, it was supposed to have a blunt side to it, but instead that side was covered with large ripping serrated spikes. The tip was an extended piercing tip much like a kunai blade, but as it came back down it turned into a large and long double-edged scythe-like hook. The rest of the blade was obviously made for cleaving as it resembled Zabuza's sword the rest of the way back to the handle. The entire blade was made of black adamant, a demonic metal that was completely indestructible, could absorb chakra and store it, and worked with all known elemental affinities. It had no fancy hilt or handle. The handle was merely a thinned and rounded area of the blade wrapped with dragon hide for added grip. The butt of the handle, however, held something truly interesting, a one-of-a-kind jewel known only as a prism diamond that was forever locked within the adamant holding it in place. It was about as thick as a golf ball, but instead of a rounded-off gem it had been cut so that it came out as a piercing sharp point. Its name came from the fact that shimmered with various different colors much like a prism crystal does, but unlike crystal, this was a diamond and unbreakable. The massive blade hummed as Naruto grasped it as if it was greeting its master. Naruto smiled. Requiem was semi-sentient. No one but him could wield it or lift it for that matter, and he could summon it to his hand if separated from it. It was the most powerful sword ever created by an unknown duo of demonic and divine artisans. No being before Naruto had ever been able to claim it, as the legend of it had foretold that only the one who was darkness beyond blackest pitch and radiance beyond greatest brilliance, a perfection of two opposing forces, could only wield Requiem. What that meant was only a being with a pure soul who had both the powers of darkness and light in harmony within themselves could master the Requiem. Naruto ran through various kata he had created for his own personal sword style. The massive blade cutting through the air with grace unheard of for such a sword its size. With each swing of Requiem, Naruto's mind eased more and more as the fog of confusion cleared and clarity took its place, calming the young Hanyu warrior. Things may not have started off for Naruto like he had hoped they would, but as it was said, even the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. It didn't matter anymore. Naruto had the power, strength and skills to match any surprise or danger that came his way. Besides, a few surprises was better than knowing everything that was going to happen. At least he wouldn't be bored in the foreseeable future. Chapter 6. Setting into Motion, Part 1. 2 weeks later. The 2 weeks following the demon scorpion attack and the hot spring incident had been rather quiet, a fact which Naruto was grateful for. Much to the girls' dismay, Anko had been right. The incident was a step back in any progress they made with Naruto, albeit a small one, but a step back nonetheless. He had remained friendly but acted a bit more reclusive when it came to certain matters. The only really big thing that happened was when the medical reports on the Uchiha's medical condition became common knowledge. The council was extremely dismayed that they lost the Sharingan and any chance of breeding it. Several had blamed Naruto due to Sasuke heatedly accusing him. Naruto just brushed them off, telling them he had no idea what they were talking about. Since no one could prove that Naruto did anything, the subject in general was dropped, though some of the more narrow-minded citizens still held the demon spawn in contempt. Naruto did tell the Hokage the truth, and the elderly man didn't question it since the order came directly from Shinigami himself. No one was stupid enough to question the death god's motives. Well, Naruto might, but he could technically get away with it since he was damn near a demigod himself, or would be when he turned 25. Kakashi was still forced to act as Sasuke's mentor, so Naruto continued Sakura's training. Sakura, along with the 3 other genin kunoichi, decided it would be best to slow things down on their advances towards Naruto, at least until he grew more comfortable around them. This would give each of them the opportunity to get to know him better as a person and ensure themselves that their emotions were real and not just silly crushes and hormones. As such, each girl had managed to get Naruto to do something with them on a frequent basis in the pretense of a friend helping a friend, training or helping them out. Naruto had sparring matches with Tenten 2 evenings a week at Training Ground 10 after Guy, Lee and Neji went to do their own things. Hiyashi Hyuga had requested Naruto's aid in training Hinata in hopes the two would grow closer. So 2 nights a week Naruto was to come to the Hyuga compound and train with Hinata for a few hours. Some of the elder Hyuga nearly shit themselves when Naruto showed moderate knowledge and talent in Juyuken and had incorporated it into his own style. Ino took up 2 more evenings a week when she asked Naruto to give her some training like he was giving Sakura. Naruto had thought about it for a moment but eventually agreed. Ino was more adept than Sakura was in some aspects due to her being a member of a shinobi clan. This led to Naruto helping out at the shop more often than not, which suited him fine as one of his hobbies was gardening. Sakura had training with him every morning before they took on a couple of D-rank missions. In 2 weeks she had, to Naruto's shock, tripled her previous chakra reserves, doubled her stamina and greatly increased her strength and speed. Naruto discovered she was a fast learner and had a drive to improve herself so that she wouldn't be a burden. Her chakra capacity was now close to Sasuke's level and her control was getting even better than it was. She had even learned a few beginner-level medical jutsu, could tree walk, water walk and had nearly mastered kunai balancing. She also took quite well to the taijutsu style he was teaching her. This is where Naruto found himself now contemplating what he should teach Sakura next. Okay, Sakura-chan, you've improved yourself enough that I've decided to start teaching you some jutsu. Just remember to keep up your previous training during your spare time so your chakra capacity and control continue to grow. Naruto stated. Sakura smiled happily. She had worked herself harder than ever before to improve herself as quickly as she did. What kind of jutsu are you going to teach me? She asked. Naruto reached into one of his belt pouches and pulled out a blank piece of paper. I want you to hold onto this and pump some of your chakra into it. It will tell us what elemental affinity you have. Excited, Sakura grabbed the paper and did as told. Half of the paper grew wet while the other half turned to dust. Naruto arched an eyebrow in surprise. Well, that was unexpected. He said. It appears you have an affinity for both water and earth elements. It's pretty rare for humans, especially our age, to have even one affinity. Wow. So what is your affinity? She asked in awe. Wind, fire, earth, water, ice, wood, magma, lightning, light, dark and shadow, being a 9-tailed Hanyu has its perks. Naruto answered. Sakura's jaw dropped. Isn't such a thing impossible? She exclaimed. Normally yes, but since Kyuubi had an affinity to those elements I gained that power as well when I absorbed Kyuubi's powers. Naruto answered. It was a half-truth. Light, dark and shadow elements were given to him by Shinigami when he became his avatar. Anyway, I'm going to give you a scroll with Shuriken and Kunai Shadow Clone Jutsu and Poison Cloud Jutsu to learn on your own. Both are pretty simple. I'll also throw in the Mystic Palm Jutsu for your medical studies since you've got Chakra Scalpel and Poison Purge down. For your elemental affinities, I'll teach you Earth Clone Jutsu, Water Clone Jutsu, Earth Encampment Wall Jutsu, and Water Encampment Wall Jutsu. Later, I'll teach you some higher level ones like Earth Dragon Missile and Great Waterfall. Since you have two affinities, I need to train you how to manipulate your chakra so that you don't accidentally use Earth-based chakra to use a water-based jutsu. The best way to do that is to meditate. Follow my lead. Naruto said, sitting down on the ground in the lotus position, and she followed suit. Now clear your mind of all thoughts, just like they taught at the academy. Once you've cleared your mind, find your center and feel out your chakra. You will notice that aside from the normal spiritual energy flowing through you, that there are two other energies flowing with it. Each elemental chakra will have a different internal feel to it. Naruto lectured. Fire will heat, water will flow, wind will blow, earth will rumble, lightning will tingle. Elements like ice, magma and wood are a result of combining two of the main five. Once you get strong enough with two affinities, a fusion affinity is born. Ice will cool, magma will sear, and wood, or plant as I prefer to call it, will rustle. Feel out the flowing and rumbling sensations within you and then separate them and harmonize them with your spiritual flow. Let them become one with you, your spirit, and your body. Chakra is a fusion of spiritual and physical energies. Element chakra holds these with the addition of a hint of mana, the planet's life force that flows through everything. Just let it flow and bond with you. Doing this, I found it to be much easier to control my elemental affinities. Now concentrate. Naruto's voice came out as a soft, almost hypnotic tone. Naruto went silent and activated his Omnigan. The colors cycled until they landed on blue for aura vision, which allowed him to see people's auras and chakra. Sakura felt through the ambient energies contained within her body as she entered a near Zen trance. Her mind's eye could see her chakra core. It was a brilliant light blue orb of flame at her very center, and flowing around it were two swirling waves of energy. One was a rich brown color that seemed to rumble, while the other was a darker blue that flowed around her core like a river. Physically reaching out for these energies would be impossible, she mentally surmised, so she reached out with her core to ensnare the errant energies. It worked. The next step was to harmonize them, but how? She noticed that the brown and dark blue chakra seemed to react positively to the tendrils of chakra she sent out from her core, so perhaps if she pulled the two flows into her core, it would stabilize them. To her delight, this was the right answer, as the two once errant chakras merged with her core, and the light blue flaming orb that was her core was now outlined with a gentle brown and dark blue glow added to the light blue glow. She also noticed that her chakra felt more controlled now and calmer. Naruto was shocked. It had taken him months to do what Sakura did in the span of an hour and a half. Part of him was a little jealous, but he had no help when he had to learn this. Just a few obscure teachings from Ero Sennin, Kyuubi would have helped him had she not had disappeared before he taught himself how to do this. He silently chuckled to himself. Maybe he would make a good sensei when he reached Junin rank. Sakura opened her eyes and saw Naruto smiling at her, his Omnigan now off. That was amazing. How did you learn such a great technique? She asked in awe. Many months of trial and error. He commented and then realized his slip up. In this time frame he had only just gotten Kyuubi's power. Thankfully Sakura seemed to buy it and didn't question him further. Now, before you learn any water and earth jutsu, you need to learn how to manipulate your elements through your chakra. It's a bit difficult if you don't have a ready source of the element around you. Earth is simple because it manipulates dirt, sand and rock. Water usually requires a nearby source, but when you have an affinity you can use the excess moisture around you and have our chakra create the rest. Your best bet is to use the hydrogen in the air to create your own water source. To do that when performing a water jutsu, just picture the air around you turning into water and focus that into your water chakra, like so. Naruto turned around and went through about 30 hand seals in rapid succession. Water release. Water dragon missile jutsu. Naruto blew out hard from his mouth as a surge of water in the shape of a dragon flew out and spat several orbs of water before crashing itself into the target, a boulder which was now drenched and shattered. That was awesome. Sakura cheered. She couldn't wait to try that one out. Don't get too excited. That's an A-rank water jutsu. Even with your affinity you'd only be able to do 2 of those at about half power at your chakra level. That's why I told you to keep building your chakra levels. Your core is like a muscle and can keep growing, but unlike physical muscles that have to abide by practical limits and the laws of nature, your core can continue to grow so long as you live and are able-bodied enough to exercise your core. You do need to remember though, just because you do not have an affinity for certain elements doesn't mean you cannot use them, it is just more difficult, though affinities are required for element fusions like ice, wood and magma. But don't push yourself too hard or you could kill yourself or permanently damage your chakra coils. Naruto warned. Sakura nodded in understanding. Naruto was an exception to those rules because he was a Hanyu, but she was still a human, and as such could kill herself if she wasn't careful. I'm glad you understand. I don't want you to needlessly get hurt. Now, copy these hand seals. He said and did 5 seals. Sakura copied them effortlessly. Her photographic memory was almost as good as a Sharingan when she could see what was going on. Those are the seals to the water clone jutsu. All these types of jutsu started based off the standard clone jutsu they teach in the academy, but various types of clones use different variations. You don't actually have to have an affinity to perform them, but it makes it worlds easier. For the water clone, just channel your water-based chakra into your clone rather than trying to make an illusion like the standard one does. Then you manipulate the sum of the hydrogen in the air to form your clone while your chakra handles the rest. This will give you a clone that is semi-solid with 1/10 of your powers and abilities, and when damaged or dispelled it will become water again. Naruto stated. Sakura nodded and went through the seals and channeled the chakra like he said and visualized air turning into water. Water clone jutsu. She called out. 2 orbs of water appeared on each side of Sakura and quickly formed into identical copies of her. Naruto smiled. Damn, Sakura-chan, you're a quick study. You keep this up and you'll be Junin rank before you turn 16. He complimented. If I can get Kurenai-sensei to teach you some genjutsu, you'll end up being better rounded than me. Sakura blushed while her clones giggled. Whenever Naruto complimented her or praised her for doing a good job, it made her feel very happy, like everything she had been doing was all worth it. She dispelled her clones and they turned into puddles of water. Why don't we take a break for now? You've made really good progress and have a lot to be proud of. Naruto said and fished out another scroll from his pocket, secretly glad he kept extra jutsu scrolls on him for times like this, though he had made this one last night when he decided that Sakura needed a few non-elemental jutsu in her arsenal and another healing one. This is the scroll I promised you. I put it together last night. Mystic Palm Jutsu is the only one on there that is a higher level jutsu, so be careful with it. If you have any questions, just ask me. If I don't know the answer, I have quite a few medical books and scrolls in my clan library that I'll let you look through if you need to. Just don't tell anyone. The last thing I need is a bunch of people beating at my door trying to get a peek at my library. Sakura, being a bookworm at heart, was elated at the thought. You'd really let me look through your library if I want to? She asked excitedly. Naruto shrugged. Sure. You're my friend and I trust you to keep what you see secret. Besides, all of the important scrolls and books have blood seals on them. No one but me can open them. The materials you would most likely need or want to look through aren't clan-specific. Sakura was satisfied with that. He had already given her a couple of scrolls a week ago on advanced chakra manipulation, chakra kunai, shuriken, chakra shield and chakra barrier. It was mainly because of those techniques and her frequent practice with them that her core and reserves had grown so much since they were made to help build chakra as much as use it to attack or defend. Kakashi walked up with 2D ranked scrolls in his hand and a scowling Sasuke behind him. Alright you two, I got us 2D ranked for today. We are to pull weeds from Mrs. Fukuyama's garden and then help Ms. Inuzuka at her vet. She gets a shipment of supplies today, a large shipment. Kakashi said. Naruto sighed. Okay. Let's get to it then. Naruto clearly remembered when he did this mission in his previous timeline and was glad that he now knew the difference between weeds and sprouting vegetables. All in all, the mission was fairly simple. Naruto made a single shadow clone and had it work in the garden with Sakura and the prick. Perhaps he should have made the bastard impotent as well as sterile, oh well. Seeing the elderly lady's fence was in disrepair, he offered to fix it up for no extra charge. Needless to say, the old woman was quite pleased and her views on the young Hanyu changed for the better. About an hour later, after a quick trip to a supply shop, the fence was as good as new and the garden cleared of weeds. Kakashi was fairly impressed with Naruto's non-shinobi related skills. Noting that the other two genin were out of earshot, he walked over to Naruto. Hey, where did you learn how to repair fences and such? Kakashi asked. When you get exiled you learn to become a jack of many trades. When I wasn't training I would spend time in non-shinobi villages and take on civilian work to make some extra money. I'm also fairly skilled in construction, masonry, mining and smithing. Kakashi nodded and said in a louder tone. Okay, let's pack it up and head over to the Inuzuka veterinary. Sakura and Sasuke gladly accepted the payment offered by Mrs. Fukuyama, but Naruto told her his help was on the house since he had no real need for extra money. Before she could protest, he just waved with a smile and told her to have a nice day and walked off, leaving her and the others slightly stunned. Naruto walked ahead of the others. This was a new mission since they didn't do it in the previous timeline. He'd actually never had been in a vet before, or at least one that specialized in animals used by ninja. He approached the building. It was quite large with several stables behind it for horses and larger animals to stay in while they were being cared for. When he walked into the building he saw someone run frantically around the corner cursing in a very upset tone. Brows furrowed in concern, he quickly followed. The person was a young woman in a chunin vest about 16 or 17 years old with brown hair tied back in a ponytail. It was Kiba's sister Hana Inuzuka. The reason for her upset was a large horse-sized dog with a bear trap caught on its hind left leg. Hana was trying to open the trap, but the mechanism had jammed, and even with a thick pair of leather gloves on, the sharp edges were still cutting into her skin. Hey, let me help, Naruto said gently. Hana jumped slightly and looked up at the newcomer through slightly teary eyes. Can you help me? She asked almost urgently. This is Kasuki. She was my father's companion before he died. I can't get this damn thing off of her. Naruto nodded and cracked his knuckles. Stand back please. But, if you do it with your bare hands. She trailed off. Naruto grabbed hold of the trap, the sharp teeth piercing the calloused skin on his hands. The muscles on his arms bulged slightly before the trap was pulled apart. A loud crack and a shrill grinding noise signifying that Naruto had torn the steel like paper. Blood from his hands mixed on the floor with that of Kasuki's. Damn, that stung. Naruto grumbled, tossing the ruined bear trap aside. Hana gawked as the wounds on his hands began sealing up. Now then, let's get that healed up, shall we, girl? He asked the dog, who whimpered slightly in pain. Don't worry Kasuki. I will not hurt you. Give me a moment and you won't hurt anymore. he said, giving the large dog a comforting scratch behind the ears. As Naruto began going through hand seals, Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke walked in to see Naruto helping tend to an injured Inuzuka companion. The hand seals finished, his hands took on a soft ruby glow. He began running his hand over the wounds caused by the trap using an outer focused variation of his own healing abilities. The ruby-colored chakra first killed all infection and then repaired the damaged bone and muscles before finally sealing the wound up, leaving only a slight bare spot on the dog's leg and a tingling sensation rather than pain. Wiping some sweat from his brow, Naruto smiled. There we go. That leg will be a little weak for about a day or so, but your friend here should be good as new by then. Naruto said. How did you? I've never seen that kind of healing jutsu before. Hana said, still stunned, even more so when Kasuki nuzzled Naruto's hand in a show of affection the canine never showed outside herself and her mother Sume. It's a power unique to my clan. In fact, I'm the only one who has ever been able to use it. The name's Naruto Uzumaki, by the way. My team and I are here to help you with your shipment of supplies. Naruto greeted. This kid is the one Mom and Kiba were talking about. Damn, they didn't mention he was a hottie. Hana, though, flushing slightly. My name is Hana Inuzuka. Thank you for helping me with Kasuki. She said with a bow. No problem, Naruto said with a smile. Stupid demon, showing off as usual. Sasuke muttered. Let's get this over with, I have training to do. He said in a louder tone. Sakura and Kakashi glared at him but said nothing. Naruto remained indifferent and Hana looked at the Uchiha heir with distaste. I'll show you to the storage room, the stock was unloaded outside earlier. She said and led them out. Outside, behind the main building, was a slightly smaller storage shed attached to it. Waiting outside of the building was several hundred large 100-pound sacks of various types of animal foods. Naruto looked at the stack. He could have this done within the hour with about 10 shadow clones, but that would defeat the purpose of the mission. It was a little after noon now and it had become abnormally hot for a spring day. Naruto removed his trench coat and swords, placing them to the side, leaving him in only a fishnet tank top that left nothing to the imagination. Hana and Sakura flushed at the sight. Naruto didn't notice and loosened his shoulders a bit before cracking his neck. Well, let's get to it, he said effortlessly, grabbing a feed sack with each hand and hefting them onto his shoulders like they were half-pound pillows. Sasuke crossed his arms and began mumbling and cursing quietly about blondes and demons. Naruto smirked at him. Hey, Emo-tem, catch. Naruto tossed one of the sacks at Sasuke. Sasuke scowled and tried to catch the bag only to end up on his ass. 100 pounds of dead weight airborne and coming at you at a moderate speed will tend to do that when you're not gifted with abnormally high strength. Naruto hefted another bag and put it on his shoulder. Now quit you bitching, Uchiha, and get to work, Naruto said in a tone so cold it seemed to chill the hot spring air. Sakura stifled a giggle at Sasuke's disgruntled figure. What she ever saw in him she did not know. She hefted a bag with a little difficulty and followed Naruto into the storage building. Kakashi with another 2 bags was right behind them. He had decided to help out for a change as it was a good workout. Seeing as how the group hadn't had lunch yet, Hana went and picked up some takeout from a nearby restaurant. She came back with some simple foods, rice balls, dango, pot stickers and some strawberry mochi for a sweet treat. Kasuki also padded out to watch them. Much to Hana's amusement, the large dog wagged her tail whenever Naruto walked by. A little over an hour later the group was finished. The only 2 that didn't look winded were Naruto and Kakashi. Sakura surprisingly was only a little winded. Sasuke was sweating a lot. It seemed the kid had favored speed over strength and had neglected to strength train, hence explaining his rather slim form for a male. Hana gave the group their lunch with some tea she had brewed and then went to finish documenting her stocks and making sure she got everything that she ordered. Kasuki curled up next to Naruto and Sakura, the later taking her turn to pet the large friendly canine. Naruto watched slightly amused as Sakura nearly devoured the strawberry mochi. He had forgotten that strawberries were her favorite fruit. He himself didn't care for sweets that much. Hey, Sakura-chan, care to trade my mochi for one of your rice balls? He asked. Really? She asked surprised. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, sweets aren't really my thing, here. He handed it to her and she took it happily and gave him one of her rice balls. Naruto looked up at the sun to check the time. It's about 3 already. Guess I should go to Hinata-chan's house early today so I can get a full night's sleep tonight. He mused. Naruto stood up and grabbed his things. I'll send a shadow clone over with some more scrolls for you later, okay, Sakura-chan? Okay. Naruto-kun, I'll see you later. She answered before going back to munching on her treat. Later. Kakashi stated with a wave. Naruto just nodded and then vanished in his favorite fire teleport. Naruto had taken a quick detour to his compound to grab something from his clan's armory that he thought would work well with Hinata's style. He quickly found what he was looking for. A pair of special tonfa nightsticks that were made out of a special metal that was extremely light but stronger than steel. He had first thought of giving Hinata a bow staff, but tonfa seemed to fit the bill better, especially these ones because chakra could be used with them to enhance attacks. Naruto's plan was simple. The tonfa, with a little training, would allow Hinata to hit harder than with her usual Juyuken strikes, but if she were to channel chakra into them, the hits could also close Tenketsu points, doubling the damage. After securing the tonfa in his belts, he ran over to the Hyuga compound. The two guards gave him a nod and opened the doors to let him in. As he expected, Hinata was sitting off to the side garden waiting for him to arrive. What he didn't expect was for Hanabi to also be there. She was Hinata's polar opposite in several ways. She wasn't shy, and from what he had heard, she had a bit of a mouth on her. He had only seen her a couple of times in passing. Hello, Hinata-chan, how are you? He asked kindly. Hinata blushed cutely and poked her fingers together. 2 weeks later, she was still embarrassed about what happened at the hot spring. She didn't really mind that Naruto had seen her. Funny thing was, she noticed Naruto would sometimes get a bit shy around her as well. What she didn't know was Naruto woke up 2 nights in a row and had to take cold showers from having rather perverted dreams about her and the other girls, though the one with Anko did scare the shit out of him. Snakes and fuzzy handcuffs were a creepy combination. I am fine, Naruto-kun, thank you for asking. She said softly. Her stuttering had mostly ceased since the incident, and having him help with her training had boosted her confidence. She's really cute when she pokes her fingers together like that. Makes me wonder why I never noticed her before. Oh well, at least this time I don't have to miss that opportunity. Naruto thought to himself. Hanabi walked over and looked up at Naruto. He bent down slightly to meet the 10-year-old's gaze. Hello to you too, Hanabi-chan, how are you? Hanabi studied Naruto like he was some sort of rare creature on display. Most of the Hyuga feared her due to her temperament, though Naruto held no fear of her, and his use of the familiar suffix sometimes irked her. She idly wondered what her sister saw in him to be so enthralled with him. Of course, she would never admit that she herself thought he was very cute, right? Father said you are very strong, but you don't look like it to me. Hanabi stated in the Hyuga standard monotone. Naruto chuckled. Well, aren't you a little spitfire? He teased. Hanabi, in an attempt to intimidate him, activated her Byakugan and gave him her harshest glare, and failed miserably. His only reaction was to smirk. I can do that too, little firecracker. He teased again and activated his Omnigan. Hanabi actually cringed and accidentally deactivated her Dujutsu. The fact that the veins on the sides of his eyes bulged out surprised her a bit, but the fact that his eyes turned solid flashing colors freaked her out big time. Still, the little girl had her Hyuga pride and wasn't about to back down or show her intimidation. I heard that you are also a demon, is that true? She asked, still glaring. Hanabi. Hinata exclaimed in shock. Naruto shrugged. I'm a Hanyu, but given my power and rank I am technically more demon than human, hence the tale. I take it you are also one of those people who have misconceptions of all demons being evil, yes? He asked, nonplussed. Hanabi blinked. Tail. She looked around and saw Naruto's tail wagging behind him and had to use all of her willpower to not scream out the word cute and cuddle to it. Naruto noticed this and idly wondered just what the hell was it with females in general and his damn tail, though he was surprised that she never seemed to notice it before since most Hyuga were very observant if not perceptive. That tail. So cute. I wonder if he would let me touch it. Hanabi thought, all previous thoughts and misconceptions of evil demons and power levels flying right out of her head. Ah, screw the Hyuga pride, I gotta touch that tail. Naruto noticed the shift of emotions and thoughts in her eyes and inwardly chuckled. I guess she still is a little girl after all. See, can I? Touch it? Hanabi asked shyly, sounding all the more like a younger Hinata, blush and all. Oh hell no. Hinata thought with agitation. It's bad enough I will have to share my Naruto-kun with other girls but not her too. I saw him first, damn it. Had Naruto actually heard sweet, shy, Hinata-chan's thoughts at that moment, he would have shit a pure gold brick.